Hello everyone, Mr. Garino here. In this video I'm going to show you how to do a Google Sheet. But first I want to explain our little assignment that we're going to do. So I have a little PowerPoint slideshow and I'm going to explain it. It's a little math thing. A basket contains 1,035 pieces of fruit. There are apples, bananas, and pears in the basket. If there are 5 times as many bananas as apples and 12 more pears than bananas, how many pieces of each fruit are there? I know this is making you go bananas, but trust me, you're going to see the wisdom of my ways. What do we know? There is a total of 1,035 pieces of fruit. There are 5 times as many bananas as apples. We represent this algebraically as B for bananas is equal to 5A. 5 times A for apples, meaning if you have 1 apple, you multiply by 5, you have 5 bananas. 5 times as many bananas as apples. So you always have to take the number of apples, multiply it by 5. So algebraically, we can put B equals 5A. The third thing we know, there are 12 more pears than bananas. We represent this algebraically as P equals B plus 12. Pears is equal to how many bananas you have plus 12 more, because there's 12 more pears than bananas. Not 12 times more, just 12 more. And then the number of apples is not related to any other fruit. So algebraically, apples is just apples. It's not any times more or any more of or less of or whatever, just the number of apples. The equation for the total pieces of fruit is the total, meaning T, or represented as T, is equal to A, apples, plus B, bananas, plus P, pears. So now how do we solve that? Well, if you don't remember this from algebra, we use algebraic substitution, or at least that's what I would use. So I'm going to use my mouse to do a little writing here, and I'm not the best at that, but I'll give it a shot. So T, the total. How many total pieces of fruit do we have? 135. So instead of writing T, we can put 1,035. 1,035 pieces of fruit. What do we know about apples? All we know is A is equal to A. So there's no relationship there. So A just stays A. And then we're going to add in B. But instead of putting plus B, because we already have that, that doesn't help us. We know that B is equal to 5A. So instead of putting B, we're going to put 5A, because we can solve any algebraic equation with one unknown. If we have 2 unknowns, we need 2 separate equations. So I'm going to substitute out all the variables that are not A, have only A's in my equation, then I can solve it, piece of cake. So we did the A, we did the B, we did the T, that was obvious. Now we have to do the P. We have to do P. Okay, so P is the tricky one a little bit, because P is equal to B plus 12. Now you could try and do that all in one step, but I like to write things out one thing at a time. So I'm just going to put B plus 12 and then see what I got and go from there. So P is equal to B plus 12. I'm substituting one thing at a time. I say, okay, well I know B is equal to, over here, is equal to 5A. So I'll rewrite this. So one step at a time. Because I notice sometimes when you try and do too many things in one shot, you mess up, miss a negative sign or something, and boom, everything goes to crap. So A plus 5A, that all stays. But the B now I'm going to change. What is B equal to again? It's equal to 5A up here, right? So instead of B, we write 5A. The plus 12 stays. Now we have one equation with one unknown, we can solve it. Rewrite again. 1,035 is equal to, and if I add up my A's, I have 11. 11A plus 12. If you're wondering why I'm going through this, you'll see in a minute when I get to the Google Sheet how you can solve this using that, using a spreadsheet. So now we subtract 12 from both sides, and we get 1023 is equal to 11a. And if you divide then both sides by 11 to isolate your a, you get a is equal to 93. So we know we have 93 apples. And then we go back to figure out the bananas, which again is over here, another big circle. Bananas, right over here. Bananas is equal to 5 times a. So what's 5 times 93? That's going to be equal to, I did this just before, so that's why I know these. I'm not that good. I can't multiply that in my head. 465. P is equal to b plus 12. So it's going to be 465 plus 12, which is equal to 477. And if I add these three numbers up, put the 93 over here, sure as you know what, I get 1035. So my answer is, I'll put a little a over here. There's 465 bananas, 477 pears, and 93 apples. So we solved it algebraically. Now, what if someone comes and says, oh, wait a second, I didn't mean 1,035 pieces of fruit. It was only 135 pieces of fruit. I gotta go through all this again. What a pain in the butt. I don't even know if it works out with 135 pieces of fruit. Let's see what happens if you use a spreadsheet. Let me just figure out how to end this. There we go. Discard all that stuff, because now it's already part of my video. So now I go over here, and I have a spreadsheet set up. A basket contains yada yada, that's our problem. So, number of apples is equal to 1. And this is a Google Sheet. So the way you get to Google Sheet, I should have said that to begin with. If you go to Drive, if you're in your Drive, you can go to My Drive, Google Sheets, and create a Google Sheet. But if you're in Google Classroom, if you watched my previous video, and there's an assignment, to do the assignment you say create a Google Sheet, because the instructions are to make the Google Sheet, and then it automatically links it to your classroom assignment. When you submit it, I get your Google Sheet. So that's the other way to do it too, probably the better way. So now here, let's write a rule over here. B equals 5a. Here's our bananas, so we want 5 times the number of apples. So how about if I just put equals, and then where's this cell? A6, so A6, hit enter. Oops, my mistake. A6 times 5. And then over here we know pears is whatever bananas is plus 12. So equals B6 plus 12. And over here we can put equals and add up to 3. A6, B6, C6. Not a bad way to do it, but there's a better way. Up here you get some nice functions, and in Sheets or in Excel, a lot of these things are going to be similar, maybe a slightly different icon, but the same sort of functionality. You can click this drop down and you can see some other things that are here. The default one is sum, sigma for sum, but you can also go to more functions, but I am just using sum. And it says, what do you want to sum? Well, we can type it in, or if I click here and drag, it says sum up these three, or not these three, sum from A6 to C6. The nice thing about using sum, if I click in here, let me first hit enter. Okay, so we have 23 altogether. If I click here and I insert a column, this will, well, let's show you. Insert column left. Now if I click on this formula now, you'll see it says A6 to D6. So whatever I put in C, it's going to incorporate that. It's going to use that as well. So this formula accommodates for that. If I just put A plus B plus C, when I insert a column, I have to go back and change my formula. When you say sum, when you insert columns, it accommodates for that because it knows you want it to go from the one on the left to the one on the right. It was A to C, now it's A to D, so it changes the formula accordingly. I'm going to undo that, but I just wanted to show you why using sum was the best. Now if I drag this down, I'll get my apples going up by ones and all my formulas will accommodate going down by rows, and I should get some answers. But I'll tell you now, it's not going to work right. And if I let go, you'll see why. Because when I dragged, it just kept the number 1. Well, I don't want that. I want it to go up by ones. So what if I put in over here 2? And then over here, I drag this down 1. I drag this down 1. And I drag this down 1. Then I highlight both rows and drag. Now it says, oh gee, 1, 2, I guess you want 3, 4, 5, and yada yada all the way down. So now I grab this and drag past the screen so it goes down. I don't really know how far. I did do this once before, but I don't remember. I'll go down to 100. Let's see what happens, just because 100's a nice number. And it fills in. Oh, that was just about far enough. Oh yeah, that's right, because we needed 93 apples, so that does kind of make sense. So 93 apples, 465 bananas, I think, and 477 pears. There's a good way to know which one's which. When we get back up to the top, I'll show you. But here's your 135. So if somebody said, I'm sorry, 1,035. So if someone did say, I only wanted 135, you could say, well, you know what? That's a bad math problem because that doesn't work. You could pick 133, 144, 122, 298. Look at all the answers you got here with one drag with just a couple of formulas. So, hey, I love algebra. I like to do algebra by hand. It's fun. Maybe not. Maybe not everybody agrees with that. But anyway, I like the algebraic substitution. But I'll tell you what, if I had somebody that kept changing their mind 900 times, I wouldn't be working on algebra on a piece of paper. I'd make a spreadsheet, drag it down, so every time the guy changes his mind, I could look over there and say, no, this is what it is. Yeah, I can give you 133 pieces of fruit, but I can't give you 137 because it doesn't work. I don't even have to go do the algebra. I can see it right here on my spreadsheet. Stop wasting my time. Okay, that's the beauty of having a spreadsheet. But now, when we look down here, we lose our column headings here, and there's a good way to fix that so that that doesn't happen. So let me show you how to do that. If you go up to the View menu and you go to Freeze, here it is, you can say no rows, 1 row, 2 rows, because freezing the top row or 2 is pretty common, so I guess they put that there. But sometimes you want to go down a few rows, so I'm down to, I should have showed you that, I'm clicking over here on row 5 because I want these things to scroll down, but I want this stuff to stay and I want it to move. So I select the box over here on row 5, I go up to View, Freeze, say up to current row, which happens to be 5, and it puts this little thing there. So now when I scroll down, I don't lose my heading. So when I get down here and I say, oh yeah, 1,035 total, but was this bananas or was that pears or what's what or whatever? Here you go. It's right up here. And you see not only the names, but also obviously your rules, which is nice. The other thing too is if you notice this, I have it spanned across these 4 cells. The way I did that, after I typed everything in cell A1, I was like, ugh, it's a lot of stuff there. I can't get it to fit right. How do I do it? Well, format, I merged the cells. So I'm going to unmerge it now to let you see how it looked to begin with. Obviously that's crappy. So if you click here and drag across so that it's the 4 columns that you have stuff in, and then you say up here format, where was I, merge cells, merge all, it merges them and makes them look pretty. So if you wanted to do something else like a border, if you select all your stuff here all the way down to the bottom just to make this stand out more, and you have a nice border, so you don't just have the gray grid lines that are there. Okay, so now you see that Excel very similar to, Sheets very similar to Excel. You have your undo, your redo, your print button, format painter, things with moving decimals in and out, your font type, your font size, some things you can do with font, some fill color things. One thing we did with our Excel, we inserted a chart. So let's do a chart here. So I'm going to click on this, go over and down. And just like with Excel, It's always best to select the data first. Scroll back up where you want it. I'm going to insert a chart, and it works very nice. However, there are quite a few limitations. It pretty much wants to work the way it wants to work. So you got chart types. You can do, your different types of. Here's all your data. So look, it looks yucky. So really, when you have lots and lots of data, line charts are the best. If you like the color underneath, whatever. I'm just going to keep it on this one. Okay, use column A as labels. So it goes up to like 90. I don't know if that's good or not. You can do some customizations. Put in a chart title. Fruity math. Horizontal axis. That's in here somewhere. And there's a vertical axis somewhere as well. And you can fiddle around with that, but one thing you can't do, unless somebody can find this. I couldn't find it anywhere. Here's your background. We can change the color of that. We can change font, but if you notice, there's no button for filling with whatchamacallit, gradients or textures. There's nothing for oh, here, this is where you can do left vertical, total fruit. Okay, but there's nothing for filling with a picture and making it really fancy. So the advantages of using something like Microsoft Excel would be that it is a bought program you store in your hard drive, and it has a much more rich feature set than Google Sheets. However, when you do something in Excel, it's saved on your hard drive, and if you want someone to have it, you have to email it to it. The nice thing about using Google Sheets is these things are all shared on the web, and you can give access to people you want, have people change things if you want, do lots of collaboration very, very easily. So that's the advantage of using Google Sheets. And they do have add-ons that you can add. And you can get other types of add-ons, and people write little apps for Google Sheets things very often because it's something that you can do, and you can have add-ons that work really nicely. Sometimes they don't work so nicely depending on how well the person wrote the code, but Excel, I mean, the way it is the way it is. People don't really write any add-ons for Microsoft Excel. If they do, if they have something, usually Microsoft buys it for them, incorporates it in Excel, and that's what we all pay for. So here's how to make a Google Sheet. Some little simple things like the freezing of the rows and some alignment thing there. Pretty much works like Excel. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to show you because it is a little limited in what it can do. But you see things like text wrapping and alignments, inserting stuff. You can do links and images and charts. You can in fact, I should show you that. You can insert an image. I hope I don't have any pictures over here. Bad ones, I mean. Let's see. Well, that's a really big picture. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, I guess I took a screenshot of my computer one day. But how do you put it in the back of the chart? I don't really know how. I couldn't find a way to align it to the back or send it to the back, which is something lots of programs do. I fiddled around with that quite a bit because I like to have a little picture in the back, make something a little extra special, not the plain old thing that everyone else does. But what I found using Google Sheets and a lot of the Google apps for education, again, wonderful because it's online and collaborative and all that type of stuff. But because it's web-based, there are some limitations. So uh, work that up, make it look nice as best you can. If you can make it look nicer than mine, that'd be great. I'd love to learn from students. Uh, that's always a nice way to learn, and I don't mind saying I don't know everything. So if you find something that can be done that I didn't, more power to you. Let me know. No insult on that. I'm happy to learn. Um, but that's what I know about Google Sheets. Uh, so do that as your assignment. Submit it through Google Classroom, and have a nice day.